Guys, it's Joey with Civil Discourse, and I hope maybe that you're tuning in for the third time. But if not, maybe you've only seen my intro or my Second Amendment video. Uh, Thank you for coming back, or if this is your first time, I hope you like it. I'm trying to improve and take what other people in the comments other people have given me and move forward and work on those. So going to get into this week's topic. Hopefully the video is a little shorter. I hope to not drone on as much and see how it goes. So in the news this week, the NFL took center stage once again, but for a different reason. Not in some respects, the players once again knelt during the national anthem, but the big controversy this week was Vice President Mike Pence went to the Colts 49ers game and then left during when the players knelt during the national anthem. And so I want to start this video off kind of looking at where the White House went wrong on this one, and kind of hopefully giving a fair view at things. So Mike Pence leaving the football game first off. Business Insider, when doing the research, found purely the flights cost taxpayers to almost $250,000, like $249,000, which is absolutely absurd. Um, it would have cost much less. He went, for those who don't know, he flew to the football game from the Las Vegas Memorial, where he was attending in place of Donald Trump this week, and then flew from the game to a political rally for a Republican running for Senate, I believe. And so together, these flights cost almost $250,000. That's not taking into effect what it took for security, food, staffing, all the other things that go along with a vice president or a president going to an event. So it was horribly expensive for the taxpayer for a game he did not even attend, or in the words of him, dignify with a appearance. Um, what's wrong with this is that it was a clearly staged political act by the White House. Knowing one, the 49ers is the team that started the whole trend with Colin Kaepernick of kneeling during the national anthem. And whether you disagree or agree with players kneeling during the national anthem, I hope not to get into that too much with the actual kneeling during the national anthem part. But whether you agree or disagree, you knew that they were going to kneel during the national anthem, especially when the person they're trying to argue against shows up to the game. It wasn't some secret Mike Pence was going to show up to this game, so knowing that he was showing up, they were going to kneel. And so to waste over what's going to be over a quarter of $1 million to make some crybaby walkout because you don't agree with, not now, I'm not saying I agree with what they do. I certainly don't. But no matter how disrespectful these protests may be, the president may speak out against it, though I don't believe he necessarily should. There's many things, but when I as a taxpayer, though I'm young, I still do pay some taxes, and when taxpayers around are footing the bill for you to be a crybaby and to in a sense take your ball and go home is absolutely ridiculous, and that is not presidential, or in this case vice presidential. And it was clearly staged, and it was clearly a political event. There's I don't see how any logical human being can make the argument that Mike Pence did not know when he showed up to this event that they were going to kneel. And so to show up knowing this was going to happen and to know your response to it is ridiculous. People can counter protest, people can do all of that all they want, and I agree with the counter protest. However, the government using taxpayer money to protest an item of free speech is absolutely ridiculous and not right. However, this is ironic. This outcry is ironic coming from the political left in today's society. And you kind of made me want to side with him at first because of one, how disrespectful these protests truly are. You are kneeling during the one time that is taken before every national football game to honor and to remember our country and where we come from, and to put off everything else and to say, look, our country's not perfect, but here's a time where we can think and reflect that we do live in an incredible place, and by every margin we do. And if you don't agree with that, go to another country. That's all I can say. Especially our neighbors to the south. Um, and you look and you say, well, we certainly don't have it as bad as them. And by pretty much every margin in comparison to almost every other country in the world, we have it much better off. So there's that this is simply, and to we memorialize and take that time to remember that the people who died to give us those freedoms, and they died with that flag on their shoulder. So I find the protesters disrespectful. Whether I find them disrespectful or not, it doesn't matter. This still comes down to an issue of free speech. And many times I've seen the left, instead of counter-protesting or even mean tweets, as we've seen from President Trump, or even the ridiculous waste of $250,000 that Mike Pence is, I'm gonna take my ball and go home, 6-year-old response to an argument was, um, I've seen, instead of that, the left has skipped the whole free speech and counter-protest and gone to violence. And that is as unacceptable as it is to waste $250,000. It's more unacceptable to beat people in the streets over free speech issues. So it's become the irony of this whole situation is that the political left in this country has, on every occasion, on multiple occasions, when you look at Berkeley, Portland, Alexandria, Virginia, where the congressman was shot, you see them on over and over again. Berkeley, it's like a monthly cycle we're getting going here, where someone they don't like is coming, and they ship people in. Antifa comes in, they got the bricks. They're gonna destroy stuff. I would, at some point, if I was a business in Berkeley, I would either leave or put like plexiglass windows in. It's something you can't break because you know what's gonna happen, and it's just a matter of who are they destroying stuff over this time. It's not, and that's wrong. And no matter how abhorrible you find the speech, it doesn't matter. The First Amendment is not designed to protect popular speech. It's designed to protect the speech that we find unpopular or that we may disagree with, because there wasn't a time too long ago where the speech we disagreed with was African Americans should have rights, or the speech that we disagreed with was we shouldn't wage the Vietnam War, or that if you look at the litany of issues that were unpopular at the time, and the only reason that the government wasn't allowed to throw you in jail for saying these things is because of the First Amendment. And then things we now view as a human right, or most people agree with as a human right. Some people still disagree, and that is their right under their First Amendment. We're not here to thought police, but there's no comparable evidence of the political right becoming violent in the way that the political left has. And so now that they're all the outcry is, how dare you, how silly are you to not decide to not watch, for the people not watching the NFL. How dare people who own teams make people stand. Look, that's a peaceful way to protest against, and that's the beauty of capitalism is, well, if I don't like your speech and the way you're conducting yourselves, I can choose not to spend my money to support that, because in the end, my views and my money being spent on merchandise is not your right, and especially when you're making millions of dollars off of it. And so I can choose to support you or not support you. That's the beauty of capitalism. If you don't like my message, if you don't like my T-shirt or my shirt's green, you can choose not to serve me or give me money or whatever. If you don't like these videos, I'm using these videos as a way to get my ideas out there to whatever. And if you don't like that, That's the beauty of a free country, is you don't have to watch them. No one's shoving this down your throat. However, you circumvent that and you subjugate that when the left decides that it is okay in Berkeley to throw bricks, to smash windows, to hurt people. In Portland, where 14 people were arrested for throwing explosives and bricks at police. In Alexandria, where a staunch Bernie Sanders supporter unloaded on a congressman. And this has been seen as okay. Um, in an article written by the Chicago Tribune, they talk the author talks about um, how the violence is brushed off by people when the anchor for MSNBC is, well, he was shot, but do we really have to put off the fact that he's against gay marriage? He's not going out there. He's not going out there and killing the gay people, and killing homosexuals and doing all that. He's not doing that. He's simply saying, I disagree with this, and and using the power of his vote and the power guaranteed by the people who voted for him to vote against this. But when you brush off the violence because you disagree with his speech, speech is not violence. Words may hurt your feelings, words may do all of that, but in the end, they're not a knife, they're not a brick, they're not fireworks being thrown at police, they're not the beatings we're seeing with baseball bats, the shooting of senators. It's not the same. And so for now that the left has decided that this is their stand, and how dare you attack free speech when you do it with violence all of the time, it's laughable. And though I may disagree with the White House pitching a fit about your version of free speech, look, everyone should be able to say whatever they want to say. That's what the First Amendment's meant for, and that's what's protected. And the government cannot come in with force and stop that. But that doesn't mean I can disagree with you all day long, and that's what the left is asking. The political left in this country is asking, does not like that we disagree with either what they're saying or how they're doing it, and because they don't disagree, and because that we disagree with this, we're these horrible, awful, silly people. And no, and we're in some way trying to ruin their right of free speech. No one is saying that these NFL players can't do this legally. It's perfectly legal. We just find abhorrent. We don't like it. And that's where this issue of free speech comes in. Is it free? The left is clearly showing that they believe that their right for free speech is not only to say anything or do anything they want, is for them to say anything and for you to have to agree with it. And if you don't agree with it, or you put out ideas that they disagree with, they can beat, they can throw bricks, they can do whatever they want. And this violence on violence, there's no comparison. There is violence versus disagreement, civil disagreement. And when that's what you put up against something like Pence, your argument, the left's argument, which would be much more understandable, much more agreeable if they're hurting themselves. The left is hurting themselves in these cases, which is the shame, because I do believe they have certain things, that they have to say. I am a staunch believer of stay out of people's bedrooms, and so I am very pro gay rights, pro gay marriage, and you have every right to that. And your ideas would be so much easier to listen to if you didn't beat people up on the way to saying them. And so that's where I think we have to look and have to change in this country. And if you really want to combat the White House, you cannot bring your own organization back in combating the White House, because right now the left is looking about as hypocritical as an organization can look, or not as a movement can look, because as they're punching a person who simply is supporting Trump, or throwing bricks at a police officer who is simply trying to protect someone giving a speech on a college campus, they're saying, how dare you shut down my free speech by saying you disagree with it. And the ideas could flow easily on both sides if the violence on one side would stop. And until that happens, I do not believe that there will be any move forward. This, however, does not make what I does not discredit the left's the left may be hypocritical all they want, but the right, the libertarian, anyone else has to look at that and look at what Mike Pence did, and for their own selves say this is ridiculous and this is not cannot continue. That this fit pitching cannot be allowed to continue, because that's what Mike Pence did, and that's what it was. It was not an in the spur of the moment movement. This was not in the spur, this didn't happen randomly. He knew what was going to happen. He showed up, and this was a staged political event. And we have to look and say, we're not going to foot the bill. We're not going to foot a $250,000 bill for you to have a staged political event. This is not election. This is, if I want to donate to your election, that's one thing, but you cannot forcibly take my money and then pitch this fit. So that's kind of the video. I hope you look at both sides and are willing to, I hope I did a job of, saying and criticizing both sides, and I hope people listen to both of those criticisms and aren't closed off because I criticize their side. And I think that it's important to kind of realize the faults on both sides, because I think both the left and the right would be heard a lot more if this shenanigans and ridiculousness wasn't going on, because I refuse to believe that people as a whole are this immature, and believe that either side in this is okay. So please tell me what you think. Please let me know how this video went, if it went any better. And I hope to give you guys a new video soon. Thank you for tuning in to Civil Discourse, and have a great day.